Hey, so here's an awkward video I didn't want to make. I never wanted to make, but I feel like I have to now more than ever. Probably should have made it sooner, but it's just so weird to talk about, right? And from the title, let's talk about depression and suicide. People, it's like whenever it's brought up, like people bring it up and it's just so lightly touched on. It's always, yeah, depression. If you're struggling with this or you're struggling with suicide, go seek help. Talk to your friends, talk to your family. Here's a list of hotline numbers, suicide prevention numbers, and that's that's usually where it ends. Like no one dives too deep into the conversation. With a situation like this, with a suicide, people will say, share memories, fond memories they have of the person that they just lost, and uh, I can't say anything. It'd be a little bit hypocritical. I've done that plenty of times too, but I feel like we really need to sit down and talk about it. And forgive me for the pacing, the awkwardness, the whatever of the video. Normally I script these things out so it's smooth, punchy, whatever. But I need this to come from here. So there's no script, and I'm just gonna talk about some of my personal experiences with depression, with suicide, and with friends, close friends. I've had that struggle with that as well. So I guess right off the bat, suicide runs in my family. Uh, not a lot of successful suicide attempts in my family. Very thankful for that, and myself included. So I don't know what order I should tell these parts of my life story. Uh, my I guess I'll just go into it. My first suicide attempt was 10 years old, if you can believe that. 10. That you might be thinking that's incredibly young, and it is, but I had, I don't want to say it's like the worst childhood or anything, but it was not easy. Like, it was pretty rough. My mom was never a part of my life, and so I was basically raised by my dad, and he'd bounce back and forth between different women. So I had a lot of different stepmoms growing up, and at this point in my life, there'd been one particular stepmom that left a pretty lasting impression. She was pretty terrible. From what I remember, a lot of it's blocked out. So, but yeah, of a sociopath alcoholic is what she was at that time. And it is just as bad as it sounds. And my dad was in the military this time. He spent a lot of his time either just at work or traveling around. I wouldn't see him for like weeks on end, so I'd just be stuck at home with this particular stepmom, and she was rough, pretty abusive. So uh, it was shortly after that. I don't know, just psychologically mess with me, and my dad, he wasn't growing up. He was rough. He was really rough. No, I don't know how to put it, man. It really wasn't until I was like 20 years old when I finally started to develop a decent relationship with my own dad. But um, he was one of those old school, you do anything wrong, you get your ass beat kind of dads, and it like didn't really have to be anything major. Like he just do it, and then of course him being in the military, kind of, I feel like it amplified it to an extent. Like when he came back and at what was he? He was like a staff sergeant. And then he went to officer school, became an officer, and there was like when he got promoted to I think captain or whatever, I wasn't even allowed to call him dad anymore. He said, "You'll call me sir." That's what you call officers in the military, in the army. So he wasn't dad anymore. He was sir. But he caught me in my attempt. Um, it wasn't a very good attempt, if I'm being honest. But at 10 years old, you only have so many resources. I was trying to strangle myself with one of my belts. My dad caught me, beat me with with that belt, and you know, obviously, I don't know, that kind of messed me up too, right? Psychologically. I mean, physically too, but more psychologically. And he'd tell me that, suicide is like the coward's way out. That's not how you deal with your problems. And as messed up as that story is, uh, sometimes I think back to that, and I think about those words. I think about them when I go through those really rough patches. So, uh, so that was the first time there at 10 years old, and as life goes on, um, like the relationship with my dad just kind of like just really worsened, and like just when I turned 18, like the day after I turned 18, I just moved out, and I literally planned it for years at that point. Like ever since I was probably 15 years old, I said, I swear, as soon as I turn 18, I'm out of here. And the only reason I didn't move out the day I turned 18 was because I was working until 11 p.m. I was a senior in high school, but I still had a part-time, I hit the mic, I hit a part-time job, but I was still getting like 33 hours every week on top of school. So it was rough, and if anyone who's ever done something like that, gone to school and worked full-time, you know how much that just drains you. And I came home at like 11 p.m. My dad's just waiting there, and then it there was just like this little cake, and he had bought me the Iron Man DVD. That's when Iron Man came out. It wasn't even wrapped or anything. That was my 18th birthday party, I guess. It was just my dad being pissed off, and then the Iron Man DVD, and he said, "Well, why'd you get home so late?" I was like, I tried to tell him I wanted a day off, but they didn't give it to me. And then, he's like, "You have a family here and this and that. They got to know." And it's very hypocritical of him, because he's the one that's been pestering you to get a job nonstop. And even at 18, like in high school, like, is that really necessary to just make your kid get a job? And I've been working since I was 13. Like one one summer, my dad sent me out to my grandma's house up in Washington, out in the out in the I more country-ish parts, not like straight country, but more country-ish parts. And then I worked in the field picking strawberries, and then worked at different grocery stores, international grocery stores, from there. So it's so weird to be tired of work at 18. Like, you'd already been working for 5 years, and it's exhausting. And your parents just force that upon you. And he forced me to join the military, as weird as that sounds, because he was in the military. I came home from school one day, and he had an army recruiter sitting at our kitchen table, and he said, "Your life is going nowhere. You're joining the army." And at that point, I felt so trapped, like I didn't have any options. So yeah, I joined the army. So as you can see, he shaped my entire childhood and a good portion of my young adult life because of that decision. Because joining the army isn't something you just do for fun or on a whim. That's at least like a 4-year dedication. right? And that's what it was. So, yeah, there was all that. That doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about. That's, I don't know. I don't know why I explained all that, but I guess it just gives you a little bit of insight. That was my dad. My mom's not in the picture. Um, so, yeah, it was not easy growing up. I won't get into too many details if I don't have to, but uh, when I got back from AIT, uh, I tried giving it another shot, moving in with my dad, but we just had the same problems that we had when I moved out when I was 18. He just expected me. He was just trying to control too much, right? At this point in my life, he was just a real control freak. He's gotten a lot better since then, but at this point, it was just through the roof. And I had thought that me being away, me moving out, would have changed that, and it kind of didn't. So I moved out, and I moved into one of my friends' houses, and from there, like, I just, I don't know. Um, I don't know. Just got kicked around from place to place. I'd move into a friend's house, I get kicked out. Move into another friend's house, and get kicked out. And this happened. This happened a couple times. So I just had a couple boxes of things in my car, and that's basically where I was. And my life was just like at an all-time low. I was flat out broke. I didn't have a job. The car was the only thing I had, and the couple boxes of my stuff in there. And yeah, it was a pretty low point. And that car was about to get repossessed too, because I was broke. I couldn't afford the payments on it. So it was one of those things where it was like such a low point in my life, and I saw no way of getting out of it. And I was like, this is it. This the end of the road for me, right? And the plan was, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take this car and take what I have. I'm just going to drive. I don't know where I'm driving to, but I'm just going to keep on driving until the gas runs out. And then I don't know. That was just going to be it for me. But that day, or it was like soon after I had that thought, one of my friends had texted me, and she wanted to hang out. Sorry. She had wanted to hang out. So I said, yeah. Clearly I'm not doing anything better, and I'd like to, see people have fun one last time, right? So that's what I did. I went down to her place. We hung out, talked, had a good old time, and then it got kind of late. And she said, I guess it's time for you to go. And, all the positivity, whatever, just left my body. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And then she kind of saw, like, how serious my tone had gotten. She looked out in my car, just saw it was filled with all my stuff, and she asked me if I was living in that car. I said, yeah, I am. And then she let me stay there at her apartment for a while. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I stayed there for a bit. Eventually, I don't want to get into details, eventually that evolved into a relationship, and then it got pretty serious. We got engaged, and she was pregnant for a while, lost the baby. Then after that, she broke off the engagement, and a couple months after that, ended the relationship entirely. And this, I'll say this, it's kind of weird. I had hit lower points in my life. If I look at things from a bigger picture, I had hit lower parts of my life than that breakup, right? But nothing, nothing has ever hit me as hard as that did. Because up until this point in my life, all these messed up things, all these bad things that happened to me, was kind of out of my control, to be expected, and it came down from people that had, like, power or authority over me, right? And there was nothing I could do about it. But this hit me particularly hard because this was like a genuine shot at happiness that I feel like I blew. Like, I lost that. That was my fault. To an extent, it was. But yeah, to, have someone that you're ready to spend the rest of your life with, and, it goes from like, I love you and I can't wait to, have our future together, to, I don't know, and this isn't what I want anymore. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. And as far as depression goes, that was by far the lowest point in my life, because I had already gained a lot of weight. You guys would never believe it looking at me, and I never took pictures during that time, so I have no proof of it. But believe me when I say I was overweight, and then seeing the guy that she had left me for definitely didn't make me feel any better. And yeah, it was rough. I hated everything about myself at that point. I hated the way I looked, the way I felt. I hated, all my actions looking back, everything I did wrong, like in that relationship as a person. It killed me, guys. Like, every single day, it was all I could think about. And every single night, it would haunt my dreams. And that's not even an exaggeration. That was my entire life for at least like 5 or 6 months after that breakup. It was a living hell. But I had friends that were there and trying to make me feel better, people to talk to. And eventually they got tired of just listening to me, be me, being just sad, bringing down the mood and whatever all the time. So I just kind of stopped talking about it, right? And in fact, I stopped talking to a lot of those friends entirely because we went to the same high school, me and my ex, and we had a lot of mutual friends, and a lot of them knew that towards the end she was cheating on me with this guy. So I just dropped all those friends completely, because I feel like if you were my friend, you would have said something. So it just kind of told me they're her friends, not mine. And but during this time, I had made some new friends. I had started going to these Yu-Gi-Oh gatherings that one of my friends just kept pestering about for a long time, and I always tell him, no, I'm doing this, or like I call him home from work and I got to spend time with my girlfriend, this and that. But now, since that's all done, I started hanging out. I met new people, made some great new friends. One of them, my roommate here, one of my best friends, I would say now. And what's that quote? When we reach our lowest point, we are open to the greatest change. And that's what I was doing at this point in my life. Even though I had hit a new low, a new rock bottom, I didn't want to stay there. Um, all that anger and hatred I had for myself, I changed. I used it as my fuel to change. I started working out like twice a day. I didn't get like completely ripped, but I lost like I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of weight in a good way because I was, like I said, I was kind of fat. I did that. I started, like I said, hanging out with new friends. I started getting back into my old hobbies. I started, excuse me, I started, it's going to sound a little weird. I started looking up, uh, it's really weird. I started watching Simple Pickup on YouTube, if you guys ever heard of them. And it wasn't so much that I was trying to be a player, go around and like, sleep with a bunch of different girls. I don't think I slept with any of them. It was just the idea of getting out of my comfort zone, going out and socializing with complete strangers, trying to start up conversations out of nothing. And it was kind of like a confidence boost for me, at least. There was nothing for me after that. I got pretty decent at it, to be honest. The first time interactions would go really well. I'd get several girls' numbers, but I'm a terrible texter, so it would always die out after that anyways. But just the idea of getting out and then just trying to conversate with new people, and it's actually really good. It's actually really good, to be honest. It was nice. It was really nice. Don't know if it'd work for you particularly. I'm just telling you guys my story and my take on these things, how I dealt with it, and maybe it would help you too. So that's the hope here. Yeah. So there's a good majority of my story. There's other times where I wanted to just die. Like, if I'm being honest, I was so over how shitty my life was. And there are times, so many times, where I just felt like so alone, like no one can relate, like, growing up the way I did. There's a lot of single parents out there, but it's like everyone's raised by a single mom. Like, no one knows what it's like to be raised by a single dad that's a drill sergeant, right? Doesn't see you as a son, but just sees you as a soldier. It's not something too many people can relate to. So a lot of times I really felt like I was in my own boat when it came to the things I had to deal with, the personal struggles I went through. So it was very hard to find people to talk to. There was one of my friends that I was able to talk to about anything. At one point we were really close, and I could talk to her literally about anything, and it's 100% judgment free. And even though she couldn't completely relate, she did to enough of an extent. And she also had her struggles, and we kind of made this promise of each other where it was like, okay, I always need you in my life, and then vice versa. So we just made this promise of like, you can never commit suicide, or I can never commit suicide. Same thing. Both of us did it. There were a lot of days that was the only thing that kept me going. That's the only thing stopping me. And yeah, no joke. It sounds weird, right? Just one little promise would keep you alive. But I'm a man of my word, and I don't break promises. So I'm pretty much bound to that forever. I say it like it's a bad thing. It's not. It's a good thing, because obviously my life got better, right? It's not like I stayed in that super low point forever. And I think that's the important thing to take away, is that no matter how bad it gets, no matter how dismal it is, and it looks like there's no way out, I can tell you from experience, it gets better. So there's the good majority of my story relevant to this. And last year, there was a friend I had who was in a complete mental breakdown. And I currently live in the Midwest, and she's over on the East Coast, where I spent most of my life. We had met in our freshman year in high school, and we've been friends like kind of ever since then. And even though we don't talk too much, every time we talk, it's like we don't miss a beat. It's like the friendship's exactly where it was. And it's one of those friendships I really value, because there's not too many friends I feel that I have that dynamic with. And just because, just like my other friend I was talking about that I made the promise with this friend, I could talk to about damn near anything, and actually have a conversation about it, instead of, just the short responses. That okay, and then the conversation dies out. You know what I'm talking about. So she was going through a very terrible time, and if what I described about my life sounds shitty and terrible, her story, if I told it, well, it's her business, is like 10 times worse. So I'm always impressed that she finds the strength and fortitude to do anything. The fact that she made it this far in life is a testament to how strong she is. But yeah, last year was she was at a low, and she had this mental breakdown, and she had called me, and she's crying hysterically. She's just driving around aimlessly, and she's like sobbing. You can hear it, just hardcore sobbing over the phone, and just like hysterically yelling. And she had felt so alone. She again, I don't want to get into the details of her story. It's her business, not mine. But she had tried contacting everyone in the area that she knew to try to hang out, to try to like talk about it, to just have something to do, to take her mind off of this, to make her feel better. And everyone she had contacted just told her, I can't, I'm too busy, or not now. Everyone had blown her off, which was insane in my opinion, because of how serious this problem was, of how serious her emotions were. And everyone just brushed it off, everyone she had contacted. And it's just me over the phone talking to her, and I am so scared that my friend, a very close friend that I've had more than half of my life at this point, I'm scared that she is going to kill herself because none of her other friends were there for her. And I'd kept her on the phone for a little bit. I tried to do the best I could, because I know her so well. I was just doing my best to not escalate any emotions here. She had decided that, or I think she got a call. I think she got a call from someone else, and I started calling mutual friends that we had. I started trying to like contact them through Facebook, and it was rough. It was like it's like at midnight over here, so it was like 1 in the morning over there or something. It was not a good time to try to reach anyone, and the few people that did respond were not available to meet up with my friend here. One of them didn't have transportation, so I mean that kind of sucked. And one of my friends I contacted, I'll never forget this. He told me, is like, is there anyone else you can contact? I said, dude, I have tried. And I explained the situation to him and how serious it was and how it's like literally life or death. And he was just, he kept like trying to come up with excuses and deflect it. And to this day, I don't think I've really forgiven him for that. Even though my friend came out okay, she eventually, got to a better place in her life. But if I had lost that friend that day, and this guy that I had like explained the whole thing to, and it's so hypocritical to me. He's always talking about mental awareness and this and that, and he just couldn't take the time to go down and see her. And I don't know, I never would have forgiven him for that, especially when he sits so high and mighty on his morals or whatever, right? Yeah, so that was a real scare for me. And it was a scary thought that it was a lot of pressure, if I'm being honest. So much pressure. I'm not trained for that. Even though I've been there, I don't know how to really help people out who are there. It's so weird. I did the best I could though. At this point, I had no job. I had no money. I couldn't fly out to help her out, to just be there in person. And I really wanted to. She needed it. I would have dropped everything and flew straight there. But unfortunately, that wasn't an option for me. So there's the stories that I'll share with you guys, and we still haven't addressed the title of this video. Let's talk about depression and suicide. I feel like I wanted to open up the discussion for it, and I found the best way to open up a discussion about something so weird and awkward to talk about, just not really a conversation anyone wants to have, is to share your experiences with these awful topics that no one wants to talk about, and talk to friends is good advice. I know it's so generic and everyone says it, but if you have the right friends, it can help out so much. Right after my breakup with my ex-fiance, there was one friend I hadn't seen for a couple of years. I sat down, I talked to him, I told him my life story up until this point, and he looked at me and he said, dude, I know exactly how that feels. And then I asked him, well, what's been going on with you? He said, dude, I don't even have to explain it. It's literally the exact same story. He met a girl, they fell in love, got engaged, got pregnant, lost the baby, and then eventually the breakup. The exact same thing. And then, yeah, just knowing that someone else has been there and knows exactly how that feels. And then you guys can talk about it. It's not perfect, but it definitely helps. It's going to be weird advice. If you can't talk about this to your friends, your family, you feel like you can't. There's too much history there. They have certain, expectations of who you are, what you should be. You feel like you'll be judged too hard. Really good advice. Talk to a stranger. Talk to a stranger about these things. I guess that'd be like calling the suicide hotline because you're specifically calling them for that purpose. But yeah, really weird. Talk to a stranger because there's no preconceived notion in their mind of who you are, right? They don't sit there listening to you, trying to give you advice from the perspective that no, is like, oh yeah, nah, it's okay, that wasn't for you, this and that, and you'll bounce back, I know you, and just stuff like that. Or they won't be sitting there saying like, damn, like normally you're just so happy and cracking jokes all the time, like why are you like this? You don't get that from talking to a stranger, although talking about those things with a stranger may be awkward in itself. But if you feel like you can't turn to your friends or family, talk to someone. It helps. Keeping all that inside is only going to feed all that negativity. It's only going to increase that feeling of loneliness. I promise you, that's all it's going to do. Because the more you bottle it up, the more you're going to be like, and you feel like you have no one to talk to, you're going to feel alone, and then the more lonely you feel, it's just like a never-ending cycle, and it eventually gets to a breaking point. Now, if you guys have followed me for a while, or maybe you know me in real life, you kind of know how I normally am, right? Outgoing, cracking jokes. Well, not so much outgoing. I was cracking jokes, though. A lot of that's what she said and whatnot. That is me. It's not really a fake persona I put on. I'm genuinely happy in those moments, hanging out with friends, having a good time. But there's like that duality of because that's how you normally are when you interact with people. It's kind of what you are at that point, right? What they see you. Yeah, that's Bart. He's hilarious. He's always playing games and magic and whatever, goofing off, right? And it feels like when you're not those things, when you're not constantly positive, you're disappointing everyone you know. And it's almost like you feel like you're not allowed to feel other emotions. Like if it's not happy, if it's not making other people happy, if it's not making other people laugh, then don't do it, or it's a disappointment, or you just don't want people to see that other side of you, or maybe they don't want to see that other side of you, that other side of you that has emotions other than just ecstatic, right? And then that kind of eats away at you, like feeling like you're not allowed to have any of these other emotions that literally everyone has. Feeling like you're not allowed to show any of that because it's considered weakness or out of character. And then that's when you start feeling alone, and you kind of like close yourself off. For me, I can't speak for everyone, but that's happened to me a couple times where there's days where I don't feel that great. I don't feel that positive. I don't feel 100 and none of that. And showing showing people those real raw emotions, uh, it just, I don't know. I feel like they've known you for so long. They've only seen that one side of people I've known for years. I've only seen that one side of me, and then I don't know how they'll handle this, the kind of more serious side and whatnot. And I think that's, again, I can't speak for everyone, and I'm not internet celebrity by any means, but I think that is probably how it goes for a lot of these people. They have this positive persona, over the top personalities that people see. They go viral. Everyone gets attached to it, and then that's the expectations. Anything less than this, that's not you, and that's not fair. That's not fair to anyone, to tell them that just because they're behaving differently from what you would normally see, that that's not them, and to make them feel bad about it. It's pretty fucked up. Everyone in life has their ups and downs, and yeah, just because someone got, you know, big or famous or created a huge following on social media or whatever, when they start going through their downs, yeah, you don't need to kick them while they're going down. You definitely don't. And the social media game kind of changed a lot, right? Um, because when you go on social media, no matter what platform it is, pick one: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, a good majority, not all of it, but a very good majority of it, is nothing but highlight reels of people's lives, right? You see, baby pictures, wedding photos. You see people on these, extravagant vacations. People dining at these extraordinary restaurants, and you have to realize that what people put on social media, like I said, it's just a highlight, right? It's the good moments of their life. You don't see their pain and their struggles. And when you're going through a low point of your life and you go on social media, you see everyone you know, a lot of strangers, you know, living it up. It makes you feel worse. Or on the flip side, you go on social media, people are sharing a bunch of political things, all the all the negative shit going on with the world, and then that makes you feel worse too. It's weird. Both the positive and the negative posts make you feel worse. Obviously, the positive, because you're clearly going through a rut, and then everyone else looks like they're just having an amazing time. It's only you. You're the only person feeling sad. You're the only person not having a wonderful life right now. When you look at social media, right? And then obviously the other stuff too, all the negativity, the political posts, all the news sharing, all that stuff, it starts to get at you too, because now all these problems, it's not just your world and your problems anymore. Outside of whatever you're going through, there's all these problems in the world going on too, and you start to feel bad about that as well. And it can be devastating if you just if you let all that eat away at you. And like I said, I can't speak from personal experience because I'm not anyone huge on any platform by any means, but I'd imagine it is so much worse if you have a big following, because then these people are always expecting content from you to come at a regular pace. Where's it at? People start memeing you when you're going through these low points of your life. Everything you post is just people demanding things from you that you don't have at that point. I miss the old you. Where's that at? Where's I missed it when you were always smiling and cracking jokes. I miss your old content. Um, Not those exact words, but I've heard stuff similar to that before. And just coming from your friends and family, that's already like it's already rough. I don't want to hear it. But then coming from, thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans, yeah. I can't imagine the kind of pressure that would put you under. Or let's say you don't show that side of you. Let's say you don't show that side of you to your following on social media or whatever. So you pretend to be happy then. That's the only other option at that point. You're a pretty good actor. You put on face for a good while. You still crank out that positive content. It's not coming from here anymore. It's coming from here because you're forcing yourself to be like that. You're kind of forcing yourself to try to feel a way you're not feeling, knowing damn well it's only making things worse. Now you feel so trapped in this persona that everyone has accepted, that people have followed you for, you've made friends for. Like, the people are friends with you, friends with you because of it. And you feel like your entire life will fall apart if you turn off the happy. Like I said, I felt that way just by my no-name self. But if I had the expectations of all those followers and subscribers, whatever, to uphold, it would drive me crazy. I couldn't even lie. Guys, we have to stop looking at everyone as like an entertainer, just literally a persona for your entertainment. We have to remember that every one of these people is human too. Everyone you come across is human. They have their struggles. They have their stories. And to downplay them for that, to make them feel bad about that, for having a past, having a history, having mental issues, having depression, whatever. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. We need to stop treating people like they're just characters on a screen, and start treating them like the humans they are, respecting them for the stuff they do for us, and then letting them have a breath, take a breather, take off that happy mask every now and then. Gotta help these people. Help anyone that needs the help, right? Yeah. So that was a lot of me talking, I guess, kind of rambling on a bit, but the major takeaway here, guys, is if you ever feel like that, you feel trapped, you feel like you can't take off your happy mask, you're not allowed to feel these other emotions, you feel trapped, you feel like there's no other way out. I need you to take a deep breath and just, even though you're feeling that way, I know we've all felt that way at some point, even though you feel that way, I need you to know that there's someone that knows what you're feeling. There's someone that knows exactly how that feels. There's someone out there that, how do I explain it? No matter how insignificant you think you are, you say I only have whatever, 2 or 3 friends. Those 2 or 3 friends would be devastated, right? Those 2 or 3 friends, yeah, they'd be lost, right? You might not have had such a wide reach on people's lives as some others, obviously. But those you have impacted, right? Those people, even if it's a small circle, you've made a connection with them. A strong connection, stronger than you think. I'll tell you that. And on the flip side, we can't hold these people up to these unrealistic expectations that they're always going to be nonstop performing and entertaining, and even if it's not someone big like Etika was, even just a friend, you don't hold them up to the standard that they're always going to be that funny guy, the guy always smiling, always cracking jokes, or whatever. And don't push people away. Don't brush them off when they are genuinely going through something and they try to reach out to you. Please don't do that. I like I said with that story, I almost lost a friend because no one else cared. No one else had the time of day, or no one else could be inconvenienced. I think that's all I want to say. I think that sums it up pretty well. And if you have whatever going on in your life, I know it's so generic. Reach out to your family, reach out to your friends. If you have no one to, you can reach out to me, right? All my social media that I actively use is in the description below, and I'm no trained professional, but I'll do what I can. I will do what I can. Trust me. And I can only hope this video opens a conversation about this, an actual conversation, and sheds a different light on this. I really hope this helps, that you could see it from that perspective. You could see it from my perspective, from someone who's been there and attempted that. So, yeah, y'all have a good one.